And the next item on the agenda are presentations. And the first presentation is D1, and it's the Partnership for Water Sustainability in BC, presentation of the Champion Supporter Recognition. And I'll turn your mic on there. There we are. Welcome here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Kim Stevens, and I'm the Executive Director of the Partnership for Water Sustainability. And I am accompanied by my colleague, Ted Gulik, who is the President. And we have something to give to you today. It's a framed letter of recognition. And in terms of getting organized here, part of why we're here is to really honor, to recognize, and to celebrate the good work that the Township of Langley has done over many years. And from our perspective, you are one of our champion supporters. And so I'm going to ask the clerk to hand out this story. Because not only are we going to give you the kind of the formal recognition, but we've gone the next step, which is to actually tell your story. And really, this is the story of green infrastructure innovation in the Township of Langley over more than a decade. And and we all learn from stories. That's the headline there. And so, in terms of the partnership's role in working with local government, is to tell those stories so that others will learn from what their peers are doing. And really, when we look at what you've accomplished through your various iterations of your neighborhoods, you've made that breakthrough in terms of moving from understanding information to implementation that may otherwise hold you back. So, in terms of kind of having kind of whetted your appetite by giving you the document, and hoping that you will have time to listen to me now while you're reading it. But in terms of the partnership, well, the partnership originated as an intergovernmental partnership, and in 2010 we morphed from the partnership into the partnership, a legal entity. And so, as you can see from the presentation, our mission really is developing tools, talent, and focusing on outcomes rather. And so we do a number of things, producing what we call these watershed case profiles. I think some of you get the weekly e-blasts. You're nodding your head. I guess you do read them. Oh, yeah, you read them. Okay, good. And so it's really getting the story out about the good work that people in local government are doing. That's really how we got going. And as a partnership, we serve as a bridge between province, local government, and also the community. And so you'll see on that slide, I've highlighted the Georgia Basin Interregional Education Initiative. I will describe that very briefly, in that your green infrastructure experience is informing what others do, because now when we tell the story, we say, do you know what Langley's been doing? And they've been doing it for a long time. And so in terms of the Interregional Education Initiative, it's 5 years. 5 years since we formally launched it. We have at a regional level, we have the 5 regional districts, 5 regional boards representing 75% of the population of British Columbia. So it's that sharing and learning process to build capacity. And our goal, a program goal, is that all local governments would understand how to achieve what we're branding as sustainable watershed systems through asset management. And I'll come back to that in a few minutes. I've got to keep moving here. So, in terms of we often talk about the BC process being what, so what, now what, then what. Now, what's really interesting, if I reflect on my 40-year career in engineering, is that communities and professionals, we often have a lot of trouble just getting from the what to the so what do we do. But what's interesting about Langley in terms of green infrastructure and your various neighborhoods that you've developed over the last 10 plus years is that you've actually gone the cycle multiple times. And if you go back to what is the issue? Well, the issue is the form of land development. Well, it impacts how water is used, how water runs off the land, and how water reaches the stream. So if you keep those key thoughts in your mind, so what are we going to do about it in terms of correcting what went wrong in the past? Well, design with nature. And if you have that shift in philosophy, which has taken place here, then you're into, establishing precedents. And I think that's what's really, from an outsider's perspective, is really quite exciting about how the Township of Langley in successive neighborhoods over the last decade plus have learned from experience, have established precedents, replicated and done better, and then you're on this continuous improvement cycle. So that's quite a story for others in local government to hear. The fact that you've done some good stuff. So, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So in terms of capturing what I would call the new normal in terms of your subdivision, your neighborhood, your community design, the designing with nature, it's funny, it comes down to a picture of a rain garden. And I think it's so significant that, the blue link, as Langley Township calls them, has become symbolic of the transformational change which has taken root in the township, and that's your new drainage standard. So other than on your arterial roads, Langley does not have the conventional curb and gutter that everybody else has transitioning away from. You've made that move. So that's a pretty significant and symbolic transformation in what you do. So when you read that document of the Green Infrastructure Innovation Story of Langley Township, there's lots of quotable quotes in there because I interviewed various people, and I had, for the purposes of today, I thought I have to pick one quote which I can share with you, and I think this one really caught it for me in terms of moving from that last image of the rain garden to Dave Cocking and his comment about looking at his career perspective here at Langley to be able to say the infrastructure we build today is integrated. We recognize that each part is a component of the whole. We strive to make all the parts work together without compromising any component. Working together, we are solving community design issues. I mean, it sounds so straightforward, and there are so many in other communities who are struggling to achieve that philosophy. So, kudos to the Township of Langley for walking the talk. And in my last two slides here, picking up what I said at the very beginning when I showed that slide of the Georgia Basin Interregional Education Initiative, sustainable watershed systems through asset management, the new paradigm which I'm introducing to you today, and if you've been reading all those e-blasts over the past little while, you've heard it, watersheds as infrastructure assets. So whenever I'm making presentations to regional boards or councils, I make the point to them, which is, if you know that in terms of your traditional, your core infrastructure, your water, your sewer, your roads, if we're faced with this infrastructure deficit, the unfunded liability, you can't afford to replace the core services. Why, oh, why would you take on another debt called drainage? And so your proactive approach has actually positioned you quite well for what we're calling, watersheds as infrastructure assets. And I think the fact that you're in Langley Township, you're particularly sensitive to groundwater because your water supply. I think that probably, without you realizing it, probably has influenced your thinking that you already are on that track of seeing things more of a system than other places where they just don't think about once the water goes down, where it's moving laterally in that shallow horizontal layer, it's going down deep. And what we're trying to do is educate people to think of those different pathways as being the infrastructure assets, how water reaches the streams and the aquifers, and those are your water balance services. So what does local government do? You provide services. So water balance services is part of what you do. Again, for a quick presentation like this, it's hard to select what's the appropriate image for the tools that the partnership develops so that our partners can use them. And one of the tools that you're involved in is the Water Balance Express. And I thought, I just can't show you a screenshot of a computer screen, can I? So I thought I would have this quotable quote from Julie Wilson of UBC to put it all in context, because when you do read the Green Infrastructure Innovation story that you've got before you, towards the end, there's a little section called Going Beyond the Staff. Because I've talked to your staff, I can sort of see how that ethic is embedded, and to have the lasting change in terms of designing with nature really does depend on community engagement. And so this is one of the tools to get the homeowners engaged in terms of their understanding of what it means to slow, sink, and spread runoff. So I think if you just reflect on that quote from Julie about, hey, if you go to Google Map or Google Earth and you recreate your yard and you play with the Lego blocks and you can see the impact or the benefits of the choices you make on how water leaves your site. And at this point, I'm going to call my colleague Ted Van Gulik up, and I'm going to ask Mr. Mayor if he would come forward so we can actually present you and with a plaque, and
Thank you
Ron
very
was
much.
gonna-
And I'd also recognize, and you had one of our staff members on your presentation, that there's many staff members that have made this happen, and council make the policy, and we approve the policies, and is our wonderful staff that carry this out, and certainly want to recognize the work that they've done, and I know some of them are here, and thank you very much. And we also got a plaque at UBCM, honorable mention for our work in this area, so thank you.
You want to get taped first? Sure.
There we go.
Did it do anything or just
Did you see it?
I trust it that it's
There it is.
okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you.
They have their eyes open, do they?
Yeah.
Outstanding. Okay. Outstanding.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Thank you.